Ah, yes, here. Yep. And this one has an unusual circular feature here that leads into the conduit, and you can actually see it curves here. Again, what was housed in this thing that was flowing from whatever component was here, maybe a pipe and something connected down into this. And you can see the way it moved my shadow out of the way here.
All right, everyone, welcome back to the land of Chem. I'm your host and the author. My name is Jeffrey Drum. Thank you all so much for joining me again.
All right, everyone, welcome back. Now, today we are celebrating Sunday Site Visit 100 by investigating the genesis of ancient pyramid chemistry technology, a spectacular expedition to the Saqqara Industrial Complex to examine methanol synthesis at the Crystal Pyramid, methane extraction at the Step Pyramid, hydrogen production within the Serapeum, and an exclusive glimpse at the laboratory temple of the Pyramid of Userkaf. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, thank you all so much for your support. I think that is it for today's intro. So without further ado, let's get right to it. All right, everyone, here we go with tonight's episode. And today's exploration begins at the Eastern Temple of the Crystal Pyramid, whose internal methanol reactor was first presented in episode 101. And new details are revealed regarding the copper wire system running below this laboratory area. Next, we venture inside the Step Pyramid to document the methane-bearing bedrock that supplied the source of natural gas being extracted and pumped by the Step Pyramid system, as explained in episode 125. Also relevant and mentioned in today's episode is the hydrogen synthesis operation inside of the Serapeum, as presented in episode 128 and documented in Sunday Site Visit 62. And finally, today's epic celebratory episode culminates with a detailed examination of the laboratory temple adjacent to the Pyramid of Userkaf, a Land of Chem exclusive investigation that you will not see anywhere else. And my wife Alexa and I were the first team to explore the inside of this pyramid in more than a decade, and the monumental footage was first presented back in Sunday Site Visit 16, special permission access into the Pyramid of Userkaf. And I'll put links to all of these episodes in the video description below, Sunday Site Visit 16 being an absolute must-watch video. And now, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I hope you enjoy this massive on-site expedition special in commemoration of this monumental milestone, Sunday Site Visit 100.
All right, everyone, welcome back. I forgot the resonance in this cavity is absolutely crazy. So I'll try to stay in the shade, but also step a little bit out here. All right, so today we're back in Saqqara celebrating Sunday Site Visit 100, which is an absolutely monumental achievement for me. We've also recently reached 50,000 subscribers here on the Land of Chem. And I want to start by saying, first and foremost, thank you all so much. From the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for your support and encouragement over the past 3 years. When I moved here to Egypt 3 years ago, I remember I had 10,000 subscribers and a hope and a dream that somehow this would all work out. And at that time, I never expected that it would reach the level that it has today. Certainly never accomplishing 100 site visits, encompassing not only all the sites across Egypt, but also our month-long expedition covering the UK and Ireland, and our 3 months of research trip to Japan. So if you're new to the channel, please go check out the Sunday Site Visit series if you're interested in on-site exclusive expedition footage all over Egypt, the UK, Ireland, and Japan. So we came back here to Saqqara. This is the causeway leading from the Valley Temple up toward the Pyramid of Wunis. And I decided to return to Saqqara today so that we can investigate the genesis and the origin of ancient pyramid chemistry technology, the place where it all began here in Saqqara, with the Step Pyramid, a 40-acre methane extraction and pumping complex that is also adjacent to a structure known as the Serapeum, which, as I've explained in previous episodes, was for the production of hydrogen. If you haven't seen those episodes, I'll put a link in the video description below. Some of my favorite work, the function of the Serapeum and the associated Sunday site visit. So here in this little passageway, there are a couple things that I want to point out that will be specifically relevant coming up soon. First, this inscription here. And let me make sure I point at it correctly. You can see a little elephant figure in here. This inscription describes the shipment of an order of stone coming from Elephantine Island. And we just returned from an epic Upper Egypt tour where we got to visit Elephantine Island, and the exclusive footage will be coming up in this month's members only episode to investigate not only the synagogue of the Ark of the Covenant that is proposed to have been housed on Elephantine Island before it was transported into Ethiopia, one of the hypothetical final resting places of this Ark artifact, but also an extremely ancient pyramid structure located on Elephantine Island that predates the pyramid complex at Giza, and it's constructed directly on top of a huge outcrop of red granite. Absolutely bewildering sight. The entire island of Elephantine Island is teeming with mystery, and that footage will be coming up soon. So here again, we have the shipment of stone coming from Elephantine Island. On the ceiling, Egyptian blue, which according to the conventional archaeological story, was one of the first synthetic compounds to ever be synthesized in the ancient world, calcium copper silicate. Another direct indication of ancient chemical manufacturing on an industrial scale. And here is a very interesting hieroglyphic depiction. And you can see these two guys here, a blowpipe apparatus of some sort here, this little vessel here. Directly above it is the symbol Nebu, the Egyptian hieroglyph for gold. So these two guys here are performing a process involving gold. So today we're going to proceed up the causeway toward the Pyramid of Wunis. And I'll be presenting and explaining some details that I haven't revealed yet regarding the chemical manufacturing operations that were happening inside of that pyramid and the adjacent temple. And for clarification purposes, the conventional nomenclature of temple may more accurately be described as laboratory, and you'll see why here in just a moment. And we'll also investigate some very unusual features along the causeway as we proceed up toward the structure. So, ladies and gentlemen, as always, thank you all so much for your support. Sunday Site Visit 100, the place where it all began. The Step Pyramid, 40-acre methane extraction, pumping and distribution complex. The Pyramid of Wunis here. The Serapeum over at the other end of the Saqqara archaeological area. My lovely wife Alexa from Ancient Odysseys.
Hello, excited. Congratulations.
Thank you.
100.
Thank you. 100. It's crazy.
Maya.
Never could have anticipated that we would have reached 100 site visits. That's absolutely crazy. And the only other person I know in the game that has more on-site experience is the homie Hugh Newman. Shout out, Hugh, if you're watching this. I'm still trying to catch up on your numbers, bro. But that guy's been around. But also, Hugh's been a good friend and a supporter of not only the channel but also my research, so I appreciate that, Hugh. All right. So while we're walking up the causeway here, let's see if we can jump down in these pits. I've been wanting to get down inside these things, and there's a big stone in there where you can kind of jump down in the pit. And I want to have a look-see. Down in here. Zayek.
You're welcome again.
Shukran, Sadiq. All right. So there's two parallel pits here. This one, and then this one is still buried in sand. And now that dude is out of the way, we're gonna take a little walk around over here. And this is the pyramid of Wanis in the distance here. And I'm just taking a look at the configuration of these two pits. There's and there almost looks like there was something above here as well. You can see this one goes much higher. So there was something here, possibly a structure above this area here. Beautiful shot of the step pyramid there. And again, this one is completely buried in sand. It's another deep pit similar to this one over here. Whoa, babe, check this out. And being very careful here, I never noticed this. And this is a cavernous shaft. I mean, talking probably at least 30 meters. I can't see the bottom.
Oh my god.
Huge, huge pit.
I did not
All
know
right,
this
yeah, I
was
didn't,
here.
never noticed that before.
Look at
Yeah,
how crumpled it is. And this is the other gold pit?
correct. All right, here we go. Yeah, so there was definitely a separate component here that was attached to this so-called boat pit. Obviously, after all this time, hopefully you all agree that these things are not boat pits, or at least they weren't originally. And I've always wanted to get down in here. There's a huge block of stone here. And where the hell did this thing come from? It's not, I mean, it's way bigger than the stones that are used in the walls of this enclosure. So how the hell did this thing end up down in here is a pretty good question. Where did it come from?
It's paved.
And you can see that there's a little notch in this stone here. So originally it was a piece of something else. Yeah, they have paving down in here. Yeah, that's what I wanted to take a look at. So you can see these two little notches here. Last time we were out here, it's been a while since we've been in Saqqara, and it's good to be back. This is another unusual piece here. Yeah, those are two very large pieces of stone that are not compatible with the sizes of the stones used in the enclosure itself. I'm gonna take a look at this over here real quick, and then we'll return back to those two little holes. Yeah, maybe this was like a section here that went all the way across. It's hard to say with these out of place stones. All right, but this is what I wanted to look at. So adjacent to this, we have that huge pit going down into the bedrock that at the time of operation, that most likely connected into the subterranean water table. And then this thing here, of course, that's completely filled with trash, but
Do you want a flashlight?
I think I have one in my backpack pocket. And we'll have a little that's to be determined. It looks like it looks like it goes down.
Take a look from over it.
Yeah. No, I can see it.
This one.
So that was my suspicion, is that those are either inlet or outlet. This one looks like an intrusion where they carved into this. Perhaps they found this opening and wanted to see if there was anything else here. This looks like an actual opening. Huh? Well, actually, I don't know about that, because look at how this side is broken here. You can see that there's damage on this side, but this part looks like it's actually, it was cut that way originally, this piece here. Kind of same thing here. This side kind of looks broken off and, chiseled into or whatever, however they did it. But this looks like the original face of the stone that goes back into there. Man, definitely not boat pits. That's some bullshit. All right. Whew, it is hot out here today. And this masonry is also a lot different. So there's many layers to the site here in Saqqara, and there's definitely dynastic era activity here at the site in terms of burials. But those tombs and other dynastic structures, they don't have this type of masonry. This is something that's much older than the conventional dynastic period here at the site.
We finally made it here.
Finally made it, yeah.
You want a picture?
No, it's okay. Let's keep rolling. Pretty cool picture from here. All right,
Stand down there.
I'll give you a boost here. Go ahead. This side's lower. Oh, hopefully I didn't get that on camera.
Let me get a shot of you in the pit. Yep.
I'm good. Thank you. Okay. So as a point of comparison, we saw recently on the Giza plateau, when I was investigating the boat pits, there was a channel or a conduit that leads into the boat pit. Here we have a little bit different of a configuration, where down here there's an inlet. My intuition is leading me toward inlet, not outlet. Same thing on the Giza plateau, where it definitely flows. That's pretty conclusive. On the Giza plateau, the conduit leads into the pit. This could go either way. Yeah, so the dry moat, we can go walk and see that, what they call the so-called dry moat, which is absolutely not a dry moat. It's a reservoir. Yeah, here you can see again these basins. The conventional story would be that these are for later burials, that they found existing blocks at the site and they were carving these for coffins for later burials. But look at this one. I mean, it's not the right proportions. Look at how long and skinny this thing is. If this were for a child that were this width, it would only need to be like half of the depth. So this is, I don't know what the hell these things are for, but I would say almost certainly they are not coffins or sarcophagi. Yeah, the proportions of this one specifically don't really make sense. This one I could see a little bit more in comparison because it's a bit wider, but this one's a little bit unusual. All right, and of course I did bring a fantastic cigar along. This is the same one I was smoking last week, but I forgot to review it. And I had a chance to smoke one of these kind of in a more relaxing setting when Alexa and I were walking around the neighborhood the other night, and these things are spectacular. Avowed New Dawn. Really, really good cigar. We'll get into the Sunday site visit cigar review here in just a moment. So again, before we leave the area, yeah, the second boat pit is higher. You can see that here, that this piece here is higher than the other one. So I don't know, I feel like this whole area here was most likely a much larger structure originally. And I don't know, today is, so we, like I was saying, we recently hit the 50,000 subscriber milestone, which was a big accomplishment, but I don't know, I feel more overwhelming gratitude at the 100 Sunday site visits. Because so when I started this channel back in 2020, when I first published my book, the intention of the channel was just to provide supplementary information, diagrams, explanations, visualizations for the people that read the book. Just some extra content, so if people read the book, they could then come and watch the videos and see the associated research related content in a visual format as opposed to reading the book. And of course, I really enjoy making the YouTube videos, and it's also very conducive to writing new material. So, you know, developing the slides and preparing all the research also helps me in my writing process. And in 2020, I never expected that I would be moving to Egypt. And when I got here in 2023, March 2023, I decided to start the Sunday site visit series. And the whole purpose of that was to take you all along on the adventure with me so that you could experience everything that I was experiencing and learning firsthand. You could see it up close. And it happens to be one of my favorite additions to the channel, and I'm very, very grateful and honored that I have the ability to share all of our experiences with you guys. Again, I feel so blessed and honored, and I'm very, very grateful for the opportunity to do all the traveling that we've done and see all of the sites. I mean, some of the Japan stuff, nobody has ever documented those structures the way that we have. So it's a very unique and special opportunity for which I am incredibly, incredibly grateful. So thank you all so much. I'm going to continue to say that, no matter how repetitive it may get. You know, this channel and my supporters mean the world to me, and this is my life now, my job. All right, so now that we've crossed the threshold there between the two granite pillars, we are now in the eastern temple of the Pyramid of Wunis. And again, as I said at the beginning of the video, let me reiterate a very important point. So the conventional nomenclature is temple, but I think a more accurate description is laboratory. And I think I've mentioned this before, but recently when we were exploring the Newgrange Egyptian Museum, there is a case in the final corner, like this very obscure area of the Newgrange Egyptian Museum exhibition area. In a hidden corner of the back of the museum, there's a case full of laboratory glassware. And there's a plaque. And I'll make sure to find this and put it in an upcoming video because I think it's important. There's a plaque that says the temples are laboratories. And we found the exact same thing during our recent investigation of the Hathor Temple in Dendara, located in Upper Egypt, that one of the cells is actually conventionally described as being a laboratory. All of the cells, or all of the little chambers that flank the outside of the central area, they all have different designations. There's a treasury, there's a laboratory, all sorts of various descriptions indicating the function of these areas. And there is a laboratory in the Hathor Temple at Dendara. So I'm just looking here. Okay, so foundation, red quartzite in through here. And there's a ton of megalithic geology in the foundation of this structure. We can go up there in a minute. All right, so here we have red granite. Here we have red quartzite. Huge pieces of red quartzite here and here. And here we have some calcite crystal. All right, so the first topic of discussion for the laboratory of the Pyramid of Wunis. The conduits, which after probably at least a dozen expeditions out here, I originally thought that these channels may have been for fluid distribution. You can see one of these little, and they're carved into these white calcite crystal blocks. You can see this channel here, and I'm going to follow this straight, and you can see where it connects into the next calcite piece. Here. And again, my original hypothesis, and you can see here just the finish on this is crazy. beautiful stonework. And the execution of this is a little bit perplexing because this would have been buried under the floor. You can see here the paving blocks, limestone paving blocks that were the floor, and this was underneath the floor, so you're never going to see this. So I originally thought that this was for fluid distribution throughout the temple, but after looking at these things, you know, a dozen times or so, it's too shallow for liquids. On the Giza plateau, we have larger, thicker conduits from granite, like you can see here, that are much deeper, they're much wider, much more applicable for fluids. But these ones here are very, very shallow and very thin. And I came to the conclusion that these were not fluid distribution channels, but rather housings for metal bars. For lack of a better term, a metal wire running through the temple. And I do believe that this was copper. And those copper wires terminated up into different work areas here in the laboratory. So the copper wires running through the floor would have then come up with terminations at some of the workstations within this laboratory area. And again, here you can see the other side of the red granite channel here. Compared, let me do a good comparison here. So you can see the width and the depth of this one is pretty substantial. You know, you could imagine a modern PVC plumbing pipe fitting in that quite well, which would be pretty functional for fluid movement of some sort. And you can see they've recently roped this whole thing off here. There's another, oh, they're fixing the wall here. But let's compare this one. I mean, this one is much smaller and very, very shallow. And I think that these were broken off. Like this piece here, you can see is broken. They broke this off when they were prying the metal wire out of here. And I don't know if I've mentioned, sorry about that, battery shut off. It's again, Egyptian summer. So I don't know if I've publicly revealed, I know I did an episode on the function of the crystal pyramid, and I call this the crystal pyramid because of the huge crystal blocks in the back of the primary reaction chamber. But I don't know if I have explained the actual product of this structure. So my hypothesis is that the methane from the step pyramid was then being converted in the crystal pyramid, the pyramid of Wunis, into a chemical known as methanol. And part 2 of the function of the crystal pyramid will be forthcoming, where I explain the remaining mechanisms of operation, extraction process, and chemical reactions that are involved in creating methanol. And of course, I've also proposed that the Serapeum, also located here in Saqqara, was for the production of hydrogen gas. All right, so these 3 pits too, back here. So we're on the southern side of the crystal pyramid, the pyramid of Wunis. And they have these big pits here. And I can see a bunch of concrete covered pits that are most likely more of these deep vertical bedrock pits. And there was probably another entire structure here in this area that covered over these pits. Which, if we look at this from a functional perspective, what if these were large storage tanks? That the pit was just the bedrock enclosure for a large tank. So here in just a moment, we're going to be seeing the southern tomb, and the large red granite container inside of the southern tomb was found to have been lined with copper. It literally had a copper tank on the inside of the red granite container. So perhaps there may have originally been a similar thing housed in these pits, large tanks, either for storage of product or storage of other reagents. I would say in this case, most likely product storage and distribution. And there's a ton of stuff to look at here in this area. All sorts of unusual granite formations that are indicative of housings of other components. Again, for those of you, if you're new to the channel, we've been out here on numerous different Sunday site visits, and I've looked at a bunch of this more in depth. But you can see here there's like a locked gate housing here. You can see that there's some indentations here, and here. That would have housed like a locking, swinging door mechanism, closure of some sort. Again, this is right adjacent to this conduit that was running below this. So again, you never would have seen these things. So there's a huge red granite security door here before you reach the inner sanctum of the temple laboratory. And there's a lot of this weird stuff kind of running through here. You can see this piece here. So again, we have this channel here, and this channel here. That's a tubular drill. It doesn't go all the way through the stone. It's about, I don't know, 8 inches deep. It also has this running through the top of it. There's this piece here. It also has this little component. And I always think of these as interlocking pieces. When you see something like this, there was a piece that fit into this and locked into that. And this was originally a two-story structure. I'll walk over here and show you the staircase. So very much like the Pyramid of Sahure, that did have a copper pipe network running through the structure. Again, that's a good comparison. The Pyramid of Sahure, the conduits running through the temple laboratory adjacent to the Pyramid of Sahure are very wide and very deep. These are incredibly shallow, but you can see the stairs here. Just like the Pyramid of Sahure, this was originally a multi-level structure. And again, the question always remains, where the hell did the rest of it go? All right, southern tomb? Okay. All right, so now we're gonna go over to the southern tomb, which has been kind of sporadically open since I moved here. And today we have a ticket. All right, so to review two major takeaways from today here in the temple laboratory. Number one, the copper wires running through and underneath the floor of the laboratory that terminate up into various workstations within the structure. And two, the product methanol, which has a wide array of industrial applications, some of them super fascinating. So before we leave this area, I'll show you this other. So this is another huge block of calcite crystal that was actually part of this conduit, or the wire, copper wire housing. You see this channel running through it here. Obviously this block has been completely moved out of its original location. We have no idea where this piece fit into that network. So determining the connections of this network, unfortunately, is basically impossible. A lot of it is still buried underneath the paving, and a lot of the original blocks have been moved out of place or completely removed from the site.
And this is the demo, right?
Yeah, part of the quote-unquote dry moat. And everything that you can see here are, in my opinion, pretty conventional dynastic era tombs. Completely different type of masonry than what we saw before. So there absolutely is a, you know, ancient dynastic necropolis here in Saqqara. But it is nowhere even close to compatible with the pyramids themselves, and completely different time frame. All right, and the step pyramid. And this is one of my favorite shots in all of Egypt. I don't know if you can see it there in the distance, but you can see the red pyramid and the bent pyramids of Dashur to the south. So going back to this scene here, the Egyptian pyramids are a massive landscape infrastructure system, a series of chemical manufacturing facilities. So the methane, you can't see it. All right, the methane from the step pyramid was then distributed to Dashur, where that methane was converted into ammonia. And I've proposed two different hypotheses for the function of the bent pyramid involving ammonium bicarbonate and nitric acid, both of which can be synthesized from the original ammonia product. And then again, the methane being converted within the crystal pyramid into methanol. And there's a very specific reason why the copper wires exist in that laboratory area, specifically related to the methanol product. That'll all be coming up soon. You hold this?
Yes.
Thank you. And I'm just gonna keep it rolling here. Southern tombs, okay.
Você senta? Tá esse cara aí? A senhora não morreu? Ah, vê se você tem, mas... المهم
Shukran. All right. So I haven't shown this area in a very long time, called the quote-unquote Southern Tomb. And this is a massive, not this here, we're entering the subterranean chamber here in just a moment. But what you'll see is a massive vertical rectangular chamber that is very reminiscent to the rectangular bedrock excavated chamber within the step pyramid. And they both have these red granite containers with a very unusual component. For those of you that haven't seen it, I won't spoil the surprise, but there is something very peculiar about these containers that we don't see in any of the other containers in Egypt. All right. So also, while we're here, pay attention to the color of the bedrock here. Look at how yellow, white and yellow. It's all the color of sand. Just remember that. It'll be coming up again here in just a moment. And I can see there's some little permeations of iron down in through here as well. But remember the color of the bedrock. All right, so here we go. All right. So obviously these stairs are not an original part of the structure, nor is any of this over here. This is all restoration. These stairs are all modern. There were no stairs leading down into this thing. All right, so here you can see this rectangular bedrock excavated chamber, and down at the bottom the red granite container. And you can see these, well, it's a single component that has two pieces. And I'll get to why that is the case in just a moment when you can see it a little bit better. Oh, cigar me. It's almost time to fire this thing up. Well, I think we're going to go inside the step pyramid first, and then we'll fire this thing up. All right, so from here, I think you can see that, again, it's two pieces, two wedges that were designed to plug the container. And there is a groove around the two wedges that suggests something was wrapped around this, and the two pieces were intended to be removed. And those two pieces, when they slid into the hole, would tighten and lock that thing into place. It's a feathered plug, a two-piece feathered plug. And again, from here you can see the rim around one of those. And as I mentioned before, in an episode titled something along the lines of copper line methane gas containers, I presented the archaeological report stating that this red granite container, the interior was lined with copper. So here we have a massive copper container. And I believe that the red granite was added to the outside of the copper container to increase pressure resistance. And okay, so these blocks here are also modern. And I've always wanted to find out, hey, what it actually looks like on the inside of this thing and what's below this. So there is a series of tunnels that connect down through this locked door, which is not accessible without private special permission. Do you have a flashlight?
Yes.
I'll take
This is easier.
yeah, here. Yeah, you can see and this goes down underground. And then Lex, go stand next to this thing. Give the people here some perspective since you're my measuring stick. There's Lex. And you can see it's more than twice her height. I would say it's probably 12 feet tall.
Yeah, I would say. I'm 5 and some change. Sweet.
Wow, this thing is huge.
Think we could get on top?
Now, I will say, thanks to my colleagues at the Osireion project, there is some evidence that these stones, these red granite blocks, were actually repurposed from earlier construction. So some of them have very unusual. So like we saw in the laboratory temple, there's these housings and male-female pieces. So there is some evidence not only on this one, but also on the primary chamber and primary container inside the step pyramid that these actually may have been repurposed from older stuff, because there's unusual housings that are cut into these that are not compatible with their utilization in the container itself. Another thing that has always been a point of contention regarding these containers. So clearly they had the ability to make huge single pieces of granite. We see them in the Serapeum, which the containers inside the Serapeum are, maybe not as tall, but certainly as big. So they certainly had the capability of making these single pieces. So it's always kind of puzzled me why this was done in separate pieces. So that is certainly one of the mysteries that remain about these containers. We have the plug. We have the rim around the plug, clearly an indication that that plug is intended to be removed. Again, those two feathered components, when they were pushed down in, they would have locked that plug in place. But they could have certainly carved this thing out of a single piece. Perhaps it has something to do with the copper liner, the installation of the copper container on the inside. Again, the true test would be an excavation underneath and see if there's any subterranean connection that leads up into said container. And we'll do one more shot of the plug. I've also considered the fact that, perhaps these were later additions, because again, we know that the original builders of these structures could have made this a huge single piece. Perhaps these were later as symbolic indications of the knowledge of the original function of the structure. So they were trying to communicate to future generations perhaps the function of these systems. Again, you can see the rim around the, looks like a cork. And you'll see the same plug when we go down inside the step pyramid here in just a moment. All right.
You ready?
Let's do it.
I'd love to look inside.
Yeah. I mean, it's certainly possible,
It's busy today.
but let's. So, of course, I'm sure you guys can figure out what we were debating there. Yeah, I'm doing a little assessment here. Oh, that's the guard. All right, never mind. Moving on. He must have read my mind. Obviously, I'm sure you can imagine what I was contemplating here. All right.
Yeah. Next side.
That would have been a good surprise if he came in here and was standing on top of it.
It's not hurting anything.
No. And here you can really see the split wedges or feathers. Again, you're not sliding a body down into that thing. Yeah, just squeeze it down the hole.
Wow. It don't go down very far.
Yeah, so I would say the plugs are probably 2.5 feet long. And yeah, you can see right down in that thing. All right. Objective for another day that I have a strategy now. All right. We'll be right back.
Congratulations.
Thank you. All right. And a strategy for next time.
I think
it'll work. It'll work. Yeah. All right. So here, on the western side of the step pyramid, they have what are known as storage silos. So this is a huge structure here that has tunnels that run north to south with transverse housings running east to west. And there is some evidence that these were used as storage silos for agricultural material. So I proposed 2 different hypotheses for the function of the step pyramid. First, that it was originally intended for the extraction of a methane deposit deep within the bedrock. And I'll show you why I believe that's the case in just a moment. Second, when that bedrock deposit was completed, the structure was reactivated for the production of the same methane gas using a strategy of biogas fermentation, anaerobic digestion, utilizing agricultural material that was stored in the silos with the activator cow dung, which contains the bacteria that activate the anaerobic digestion process, releasing methane gas out of the slurry. And so I recently discussed these features So that guy's yelling at us to go look at the cobra snake, which we'll check that out, because I do think that is a symbolic clue to what was going on here. And in a recent research episode regarding the origin of this methane extraction technology and the symbolic blue flame, I discussed how this bedrock deposit of methane was most likely discovered by a methane seep that was ignited by a lightning strike. So these methane seeps, known as sacred flames, exist all across the ancient world, in Greece, all over the Middle East. They were specifically relevant to the Zoroastrian religion, where these sacred flames coming up out of the ground were actually seeps of methane gas that were leaking out from subterranean bedrock deposits. And a lot of these methane seeps were ignited by lightning. Of course, always going back to the power source and the connection between lightning and this ancient chemistry technology. And you can see the cobra heads here. Again, I truly believe that the snake, the Japanese dragon, the South American deity Kukulkan, the feathered serpent, all of these are connected to ancient lightning deities that are also always connected to fertilization. These things go hand in hand: lightning, rain, and agricultural fertilizer. So here in the southern court, all right, sorry, GoPro cut off again. So here in the southern court of the Step Pyramid complex, there's two unusual structures that don't really have a good conventional explanation. They say that there were marking points for the Hebset festival, and the Pharaoh Djoser was running around the complex to display his virility, and that these are somehow marker points for this, you know, exercising ritual that he was doing here. Nonsense. I've also heard that these are called bread buns, bread baskets, something like that. Another useless nomenclature, because they have no idea what these things are. But in my opinion, these are ceremonial enclosures that housed that original sacred flame. So again, they discovered the methane permeated bedrock below the structure by witnessing a lightning strike on the area. They came back to investigate, and all of a sudden there's this blue flame coming up out of the ground. These worshipped eternal sacred flames. And they built these ceremonial enclosures to surround these bedrock methane seeps from which this burning blue flame was emanating. And we talked about that in a previous episode. Again, how learning from the forces of nature, studying nature, and then implementing that knowledge into functional structures. So they saw the burning gas seeping up out of the ground and developed the technology to extract that same gas from the bedrock for fuel, and also, of course, other industrial applications. Methane has a ton of different uses. And this complex is 40 acres. The entire Step Pyramid complex, 40 acres. There also appears to be the remnants of a storage facility over here, these huge chamber-like structures that we'll see in just a moment. All right, so now we'll descend into the primary chamber inside the step pyramid.
All right, everyone, I hope you're enjoying the video, and please remember to subscribe for more content if you're interested in the technology of ancient civilizations utilizing physics and chemistry and the function of the Egyptian pyramids and other ancient structures from around the world. If you want to help support the channel, you can pick up a copy of the Land of Chem book and grab some merch at thelandofchem.com. And for access to exclusive content, subscribe to the members-only channel now with 19 massive research episodes revealing some of my most groundbreaking discoveries thus far. Links to everything in the video description below. Thank you all so much for the support. Now, back to the video.
Very good.
Shukran.
Welcome.
Amen. I always go over on this side because I have bashed my head on these metal beams almost every time I come down in here. All right, so an important thing to remember is that this entrance is not an original part of the structure. This is an excavation that was supposedly done by the Persians that will lead us to the top of the central rectangular bedrock excavated chamber.
Shorty.
Yeah, I can't stand up all the way or I'll scrape my head again. I've left my scalp inside numerous different pyramid structures in Egypt. Okay, and you can already see it in through here. Do you have like kind of a flashlight?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so again, remember the comparison of the color of the bedrock. Look at this. Remember how yellow and sand colored the bedrock was in the southern tomb? Look at the color of the bedrock down in here. And you'll see this same color and it's not soot. This is the color of the bedrock down in here. This is soot. You can see this black stuff here. This is soot. You can see that there was like a burning candle or something in through here, but there's a very clear difference between the soot and the color of the bedrock. You can see here, this is black soot coming up here out of the hole, but it's very different to the color of the rest of the bedrock down in here. And then look at the color of the bedrock in this entire chamber compared to the color of the bedrock that we just saw. And this dark black color is indicative of the decayed organic material that is permeating this bedrock. This looks exactly like the cap of a bedrock methane deposit. I've shown numerous comparisons of geological investigations of methane-bearing bedrock, and that is exactly what this material looks like down here inside the primary chamber of the step pyramid. Again, there are areas where there's soot, Again, I'll give you a comparison. This black material coming up out of here, that is soot. The rest of this is the color of the bedrock down in here. Yeah, let's take a look down here. I'll turn the flashlight off. You stick that back in the Thank you. All right. So again, looking down into the chamber, you can see the red granite container that also has that plug feature. And my colleagues at the Osireion project have discovered some unusual carved artifacts on these blocks, which in their opinion is interpreted as being from a previous construction, that these blocks were taken from something else older and moved in here and reassembled as this container. And for me, the plug is the most unusual feature. I haven't seen any archaeological report documenting that this container was lined with copper like the southern quote-unquote tomb. And take a look at this here before we get to the ceiling. Okay, you see this crack? This is new. And unfortunately, the bedrock in here is going to one day completely collapse. And you can see these marker tags here where they are monitoring the separation and movement of the bedrock. This wasn't here 3 years ago. It's a huge crack and does not bode well for the future of the structure. But up here, at the top, there's actually a hole, and the hole is covered with a metal gate, an indication that there's a tunnel, a tube, a shaft leading up out of this thing. So there always has to be an extraction pipe or extraction shaft.
See the barrier shaft down there, and look at all these tunnels, remember? Yeah. These leading tunnels all the way through. In the wood construction. Between the layers of the wood.
And in my opinion, this wood was added in here later. You can see the wood is anchored in with modern concrete. And all of these blocks on the inside have been reassembled. This roof has been completely reassembled. You can see all the modern anchor points, all those little pieces of metal where they've anchored all this material in here.
The restoration work in the time of the son of Ramses II, but we have seen some original.
Okay, Galabina. All right, so there's another interesting feature up here too. Looks like there was a huge hole here. So these, you see the metal screws? Those are anchors where they drilled a wire in there and then they've anchored these pieces into place to hold them. And all of this is patched up with concrete in here. And again, here's a good image. You can see the transition between sand-colored bedrock and this dark bedrock. You can see it here too. So up here you can see the transition in the color of the bedrock.
Did you open this?
This was already found.
So from everything down, from this point down, is all that dark colored organic material permeated bedrock.
See?
No, we're gonna leave that part. She's right though. My wife. All right, so again, just as a point of comparison, I'll show you again the color of this bedrock in here. Watch my head. And look at the difference here. Will you shine the light on this area here? Just so you can see that see how.
very good.
Shukran.
Have a good day.
And especially when we get out here, look at here. This is again the yellow color bedrock. There's something very, very unique about the bedrock of the step pyramid. Precisely why they chose this location for the excavation of the bedrock methane deposit extraction system. Most recently explained in episode 125 that has a great animation sequence that shows exactly how the extraction process works, utilizing water from the reservoir enclosure. All right, so we're gonna see about one more. We have another little something. So there's another, this is the remnants of a temple that were here. And all this is restoration, but there was a structure here originally. And we have another little objective for today. Can't promise anything quite yet, but we're going to take a look. If it's possible, we'll be right back. If not, I'll go ahead and say it one more time. Thank you all so much for your support. These Sunday site visits are for you. And I am so grateful for everyone that has encouraged this project, whether you're a new subscriber or you're an OG that has been here since day one. You're the reason that we're able to do this. And for those of you that have been following since day one, I mean, look at the progress from those old videos. It is so embarrassing. Not that I ever watch them, but I see people, you know, new subscribers that are going back and watching the old content. Man, it's embarrassing, but you got to start somewhere. And if you never start, nothing ever happens. And it is because of the land of Chem and my decision to move to Egypt that I met my beautiful wife Alexa. I love you too.
I'm so proud of you.
So it's been a long journey and a really wild adventure. 100 site visits all across the world.
It's been wild.
It's really, it's mind-blowing. The manifestation of your dreams is possible, but it requires work and sacrifice. A little of a clip. Just kidding. But it is a rather emotional day. Lots of nostalgia and great memories. And just thank you. Thank you. It means the world to me. So we may be right back. All right, don't worry, I didn't forget. We can't have Sunday Site Visit 100 without Sunday Site Visit cigar review. Again, this is the Avowed New Dawn. Really, really spectacular cigar. You know, first quarter notes are like cedar, toasted nuts, and there is a profound floral sweetness to this cigar, which is one of my favorite notes. Almost like an herbal tea. Really, really good. Damn, that's good. The description they gave for the floral note is honeysuckle, which I don't know if I could go that far and say freaking honeysuckle. It's kind of pretentious. But there's definitely something nice going on in there. Let my hair in the wind. All right. So we are going to continue in our investigation and exploration of the Step Pyramid complex. And we're gonna head to the northern court. There are some unusual details that I want to point out about the northern court that I don't think I've discussed before. And then we'll see about Secret Operation Sakara here in just a moment. She's happy. It's her favorite thing to do is sit on the side of a pyramid. Yeah, life is pretty good, not too shabby. The house the land of Chem built. Really, really amazing. All right. Enough of the sentimental jibber jabber. Let's go.
First, a quick announcement. The Land of Chem 2025 Ancient Alchemy and Ascension Tour is on, and bookings are now available with almost a year to plan ahead. This is my most extensive and immersive tour thus far, covering the entire country of Egypt and all of the ancient sites, including Saqqara and the Serapeum, the pyramids of Dashur, the newly opened Grand Egyptian Museum, private special permission access to Abu Sir, the pyramids of the Giza Plateau, and a private entry into all 3 chambers of the Great Pyramid of Giza at night. Then we fly to Upper Egypt to explore Luxor Temple, Karnak Temple, Dendara, the Temple of Seti I, and the Osireion, followed by a Nile cruise to investigate the Hatshepsut Temple, Kamombo and Aswan, Abu Simbel, and finally, Elephantine Island, possibly one of the final resting places of the Ark of the Covenant. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to experience the best of what Egypt has to offer. So if you are interested in joining, please send me an email with the subject line 2025 Egypt Tour to contact@thelandofchem.com, and I will send you the full tour itinerary and pricing details. Thank you all so much, and I will see you soon in Egypt.
All right, a little detour. And the structure that you can see in front of us is the Pyramid of Userkaf. And about 2 years ago, Alexa and I had a private special permission inside of the chambers, in which we discovered and documented the remains of a spectacular blue sandstone container. And the reason I wanted to come over here today is so we could get additional documentation of the black basalt paving in the southern temple of Userkaf. And for those of you on the members only channel, I'm sure you already have an idea of why I am interested in this black basalt paving, as discussed recently regarding the Giza Plateau lightning storm generator system. And I recently discovered, kind of stumbled across some huge new revelations regarding the function of the black basalt temple floor. Remember from our previous episodes and discussions regarding the properties of black basalt being directly related to heat storage, thermal insulation, heat storage material. And there are very few pyramid structures in Egypt that have the black basalt temple floor. We have the Great Pyramid at Giza, the Pyramid of Nayusere at Abu Sir, and the Pyramid of Userkaf here in Saqqara. And there's also a channel on the eastern side of the structure that I'll show here in just a moment that is directly connected into the pyramid itself, exactly like what we find at the Pyramid of Nayusere in Abu Sir. That red quartzite conduit that connects into the red quartzite collection bowl, that exact same configuration is also here at the Pyramid of Userkaf in Saqqara. And I wanted to come out here to see if there was any evidence of a conduit network beneath this floor. So we've talked about the heat properties, the thermal insulating heat storage properties of black basalt regarding the function of the temple adjacent to Nayusere being for the prevention of coagulation and clogging, keeping the solution hot while it's flowing beneath the black basalt paving of that temple. But as always with these systems, each component has a variety of applications, and I'm just kind of scanning the ground as I walk and talk here to see if we can find any indications of a conduit system, which I don't see anything running below the floor. You can see here a huge piece of granite, a hinge here, what looks to be some green copper oxide there. There may have been a copper door hinge in the area. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and walk over to the eastern side here, and I'll show you the channel. And if you haven't seen it yet, there's a few episodes that I'll put in the link in the video description. Episode 125, the function of the step pyramid. I'll put the function of the crystal pyramid, part 1, and I'll also put our special permission access inside of the Pyramid of Userkaf. It's one of my favorite, all-time favorite Sunday site visits. And over here, this is another quote-unquote temple, the eastern temple adjacent to the Userkaf pyramid. Check this out. And this is black granite connecting directly into the side of the pyramid. So remember, this thing would have had casing stones that came all the way down to here, and this conduit was connecting into the casing stones to the interior of the structure, in my opinion. You can see some black basalt here, But this piece is black granite. Again, for comparison, you could see how deep and wide this channel is, which would be very effective for fluids. And this is in the exact same configuration as the conduit system at the pyramid of Nusret and Abu Sir, where the red quartzite conduit system runs through the Eastern Temple, below the floor, leading into the collection bowl. Unfortunately here, we have no idea where this went originally. So this, ladies and gentlemen, is yet another Land of Chem exclusive, a special edition for Sunday Site Visit 100. Really fantastic smoke. And for those of you that haven't seen it, because again, that Osireion expedition special permission was a couple years ago. That was actually Alexa's first vacation to Egypt before she decided to move here. You can see this formation as well. I mean, it looks like there is that may just be compacted sand, but there's certainly a groove here between these that may also be a channel system. That's difficult to confirm. You'd have to go in and remove all this material. But you can see some hinges here. There's a hinge here and a hinge here. And while we're out here, we'll show you something else cool. Yeah, there's lots of door hinges in here. And closures, you know, locked, gated sections of these temple laboratories. And I've studied the elevation of the structures in Saqqara. And if you had the original casing stones, taking that all the way up to the apex, the height of the pyramid of Osireion would actually be the tallest structure in Saqqara. Wink, wink. It's actually taller. The structure itself isn't taller, but it's on elevated bedrock. And if the original casing stones went all the way to the top, it would have been the highest point of elevation, wink, wink, in Saqqara. So also back here, another really cool feature of the site. Babe! Okay, 1 second. The chevrons. And Alexa was saying she looks like she found more conduit. All right, but there were originally a series of these chevrons. This is a piece here. I think Ragab was saying that there were 4 originally. So you can see this one here intact. There would have been another one here, and then 2 more of these massive internal chevrons at the top of this chamber. Which to me is not indicative of withstanding pressure from above, but rather containing pressure from inside. What do you want me to do? Oh, stand in here. And these are very similar. Ancient Odysseys, Land of Chem, Inception. Very similar to the chevrons that we see embedded in the northern side of the Great Pyramid. All right. I'm not much one for photos, but she loves taking pictures. All right. Hang on, she wants a picture, so I have to oblige.
Thank you.
My wife. Ah, yes, here. Yep. And this one has an unusual circular feature here that leads into the conduit, and you can actually see it curves here. Again, what was housed in this thing that was flowing from whatever component was here, maybe a pipe and something connected down into this. And you can see the way it moved my shadow out of the way here. And here's, yeah, the curve. Here's another one of these rocks with the green. Hopefully you can see that. The green color. That's copper oxide. And we found this exact same type of piece when we were looking for the second collection bowl at the Pyramid of Sahure. Yeah, you can see that. All that green material. So what was this a part of originally? Unfortunately, we'll never know. Okay. This is definitely an odd component here. Really happy that we were able to get over here today. And if you aren't already, I highly recommend checking out the members only channel. Specifically, well, I think I have 22 episodes on there now. The footage from Elephantine Island expedition will be going up this month, and the Giza Plateau lightning storm generator system, which is directly connected to these black basalt temple floors. All right, I think that'll do it. Pretty awesome conclusion to Sunday Site Visit 100. Thank you all so much. I'll see you next time.
All right, and just a quick reminder that if you want to get to know me and my beautiful wife Alexa a bit better, I highly recommend subscribing to Let's Go with Lex and G so you can join us on our adventures across the world with fantastic content like food reviews from our 2023 research expedition to England and Ireland, pizza reviews like this episode that was filmed right after I finished recording the epic Danny Jones podcast appearance. You don't want to miss this one. It was amazing. A full tour of the new Grand Egyptian Museum, nightlife along the Nile River in Egypt, and all of our most recent content from Japan, including Tokyo Adventures, Gyoza in Harajuku, the spectacular Kombini Sando battle, and a whole lot more, including ancient temples and other structures not specifically related to physics and chemistry technology. So come join us on Let's Go with Lex and G. I'll put a link in the video description below, and I hope to see you all there.
All right, everyone, that is it for today's video. This was Sunday Site Visit 100. an absolutely epic exploration of the Saqqara industrial complex. I really hope you enjoyed today's video, and in the next episode in the series, I'm in the mood for an old school Land of Chem research episode as we return to the function of the Red Pyramid. This is an episode you do not want to miss, so if you haven't already, please subscribe to the Land of Chem here on YouTube if you're interested in the ancient technology of lost civilization, utilizing physics and chemistry, and the function of the Egyptian pyramids and other ancient structures from across the world. If you want to help support the channel, check out the Land of Chem members only channel for exclusive research content, and thelandofchem.com if you want to pick up a copy of the book or grab some merch. Both links in the video description below. If you want to follow me on Instagram or on X, my handle is @thelandofchem. Also, don't forget, after you finish watching this video, please go subscribe to our other channels, Ancient Odysseys, Let's Go with Lex and G, and for all you cat lovers out there, Egyptian Trash Cats, all three also linked in the video description below. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, thank you all so much for your support. I think that is it for today's episode. I will see you next time.
Yo, are you still watching this? Please subscribe to the Land of Chem here on YouTube and click that little notification button. New videos coming out every single week. And check out this other episode. Come on, do it. Do it now.